They called her a ghost, but not the kind that haunted halls and the kind people looked right through. Just a quiet woman in grease-stained gloves, cleaning rifles in the cold back corners of the Tarmak armory. No salute, no name spoken. The soldiers barely noticed her. Not until Kael Stravik, a swaggering sniper with too much ego and not enough respect, decided to make her the punchline of his day. 4,000 meters. A shot no one had ever made. A shot meant to break her. She didn't flinch. No words, no adjustments. She just took the rifle and pulled the trigger. The mountain groaned. The target erupted in a fireball that lit up the icy fog. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. That was the day Tarmak stopped laughing. And the legend of the specter of Tarmak took its first breath. Where are you watching from today? If stories of quiet duty and unseen heroes speak to you, hit that subscribe button. Because some heroes don't ask to be seen, but they deserve to be remembered. Before the sun ever kissed the peaks of the Sierra Nevada, the woman they never saluted moved through the armory like breath through silence. Inside a secure military installation buried in snow and secrecy, she dismantled a DMR-65 sniper, rifle with the kind of precision that can't be taught, only earned. The weapon, valued at more than a quarter of her annual pay, surrendered in her hands like it knew who she was. Dawn was still a rumor outside, but soft shafts of light filtered through slatted vents, catching on the dust and oil suspended in the chilled air. She worked slowly, deliberately, each stroke of the brush, each rotation of the barrel, part of a rhythm known only to her. This wasn't cleaning. This was communion. The scent of metal, powder, and solvent clung to her like a second skin, one she'd worn for 3 solid years. Then, the armory door slammed against the wall. Sergeant Major Ronan Strake entered like a storm front, flanked by a new line of operators fresh from the pipeline. Their uniforms were crisp. Their eyes were sharp. Their bodies carried strength. But it was the kind of strength still shiny from training, not the quiet kind that came from bleeding in the dirt. "Armory's live and locked," Strake announced, not slowing. His eyes passed over her like fog rolling past stone. "Rounds by class. Zeroed for distance and drag. Custom loadouts go through. Support." He stopped just long enough to squint in her direction. A flicker of recognition. Maybe. Or maybe not. She didn't speak. Didn't move, just kept working. Invisible by design. Forgotten by preference. The room shifted as the men filed in, grabbing rifles with the entitled confidence of those who'd always had access. They touched custom builds and tactical scopes like they owned them. Their boots tracked fresh mud across the floor she polished every morning. "Stravik's on the hunt for another record today," one of them said, slamming a mag into a matte black sniper rifle with lazy pride. 2 miles clean. He's at 37 confirmed, and counting. Her hand froze, just slightly, above the bolt assembly. No reaction. Not really. Just the kind of stillness that happens before a storm. Her thumb brushed a scar across her knuckles, a thin white line, faded but deep. Habit, not sentiment. Reflex, not memory. Later, while she unpacked a crate of thermal scopes, the air changed again. A different presence. Heavy, deliberate. General Silas Wren stepped in alone. No guards, no noise. He was the only one who didn't look new. The lines in his face told stories the others hadn't lived. His uniform hung not just with medals, but with weight. He looked up, and unlike the rest, he saw her. Not glanced, saw. Something in his expression wavered, not surprise. Something closer to regret. Or recognition, maybe both. "Everything in order, Miss Tarmak?" The voice didn't belong in the armory. Too clean, too pronounced. General Silas Wren. He wasn't whispering. He wanted it heard. "Yes, sir," she replied, barely above the mechanical whir of the ceiling fans. He leaned in a touch, not out of need, but out of curiosity. "The DMRs are steady," she continued. "One's extractor spring is soft. I've already submitted the requisition." Wren nodded slowly. The kind of nod that carried more than approval. It carried history. His gaze lingered, narrowed. "Good eye," he said finally. That would have ended badly mid-op. She didn't answer. Just turned back to her tools. Hands moving with the discipline of a woman, more comfortable with steel than conversation. She felt his eyes on her longer than they should have stayed. Then they were gone. That afternoon, she wheeled a cart of maintenance kits to the long-range firing bay. The air was dry and stung of burnt powder. Kael Stravik was already there, center of gravity in a circle of elite shooters. His name didn't echo through base halls. It slipped through them like rumor. A ghost in flesh, deadly, untouchable. As she set the kits down, his voice cut the silence. Not shouting, Just loud enough to carry. Kandahar. 7 years back. Everything went to hell. 14 hours under fire. No air support. Radio's dead. Someone was laying cover fire from the ridge. A pause. They said it was a ghost team. Her hand fumbled. A cleaning rod dropped, clattering against concrete. Heads turned. So did Stravik. His stare caught hers, dead on, predatory. You got something to say? She bent slowly, retrieving the rod without looking up. No, sir. She turned, hoping to disappear into the backdrop again. But his voice followed, firm, clipped. Since you're here, rifles shooting left. Take a look. Not a request. Not even a challenge. It was command. Wrapped in contempt. She said nothing, just took the rifle, fingers brushing his. A flicker. Something passed between them. Recognition. Not personal. Not polite. Instinctual. Animal. I'll return it before first light, she offered. I need it now, he replied, eyes cold. Qualifications today. She turned the rifle slowly, examining wear, balance, weight distribution. Her fingers traced the metal like reading a language only she understood. The bolt, uneven scoring. The optic mount, barely shifted off axis. Left torque screws off. 3/4 turn, she said. It's throwing your pattern. She didn't raise her voice. Didn't add pride. Stravik didn't move. Just stared. Then, a hard yank. He took the rifle back like it was an insult in her hands. I'll fix it myself. As she stepped away, the words drifted behind her, aim to wound. Janitor with a wrench giving snipers lectures? She didn't react. Not visibly. But inside, something reset. Like a round seated in a chamber, quiet, ready. The next morning arrived brutal. Heat crawling across the valley like a living thing. Wind howled through the range, curling sand and light into tricks of the eye. Perfect weather to miss. She moved through her duties with silent precision, rotating ammo, cataloging malfunction reports, replacing warped bolts and heat-faded triggers. Beyond the reinforced windows, she watched them line up, shadows against the horizon. Each shooter fought the wind like it had teeth. Shot after shot scattered, some near, most not. Even the sharpest among them struggled for accuracy. Except one, Kael Stravik. He stood still, rhythm unfazed, cold, mechanical. Until the range officer called it 2,000 meters. First shot, wide. Second, low. By the time Kael Stravik misses for the third time, the tension radiating from him is almost visible. Waves of heat rising off sun-baked steel. A few paces behind, General Silas Wren watches. Not just the shooter, but her. The barely visible figure behind armored glass doesn't flinch. Doesn't blink, but Wren notices the shift. The subtle roll in her shoulder, the faint motion in her hand hovering near the bench. She's tracking every shot like her body's wired to feel it. Not emotionally, mechanically. Like she already knows what adjustments should have been made. As Stravik's third round veers off course, she tilts her head. No expression, no reaction. Only data. Then, quiet as a whisper, she steps outside, using a crate of 7.62 ammo for cover. Stravik sees her instantly. His frustration hardens into pride. Now there's an audience. Well, look who crawled out of the shadows. He calls out, loud enough for the entire bay to hear. Got a critique for me, supply girl? A few quiet laughs break out. She lowers the crate without comment and turns to walk. Hold up, Stravik says, his voice dripping with mock courtesy. If you're gonna hover, might as well enlighten the rest of us with your expertise. She pauses, eyes still on the ground, voice steady but soft. Wind shift between 1 and 1,500 meters. You've got a lateral push, crosswind east to west. The words cut the air sharper than the bullet did. More laughter this time, louder, uneasy. Stravik folds his arms. That so? You get that from your little checklist in the depot? Before she can speak again, Sergeant Major Ronan Strake takes a step forward. Kyle, ease up. But Stravik's not done. He raises a finger, pointing toward a glint barely visible in the swirling dust. That target? 4 clicks out. Think you can even find it with those fancy instincts? The team laughs again, some louder than they probably mean to. Only Wren stays quiet, eyes darting between her and Stravik. Enough, Kael, Wren says. Not loud, but firm. She doesn't wait. She moves forward, not in protest, not in anger. Just steady. Something has changed. Something uncoils in her spine. Her head lifts a fraction higher. Her eyes, always averted, now fix on the steel shimmer in the distance with haunting precision. She holds out her hand. The rifle. Stravik hesitates, then smirks. He plays it for the crowd now, cocky and cruel. Already tuned to perfection, he says, handing it over like he's offering her a toy. But knock yourself out. She takes it, doesn't touch the scope. Not a click. Not a correction. She walks to the firing line with the silence of someone who doesn't need to speak to be understood. Strake shifts, fingers grazing his sidearm. Ren breathes a word like a prayer. It's her. She plants her feet, shoulders squared, posture exact. Like she was built for this one moment, the trigger accepts her touch like a welcome home. She fires. The crack splits the air. Then nothing. Seconds stretch, then impact. Far across the valley, the plate rocks violently, a spray of dust and fractured sunlight bursting outward. No tools, no recalibration. No spotter. Just her. She returns the rifle with quiet hands. Stravik's face is unreadable, pale, eyes narrow, lips tight. She turns to go, but Ren's voice breaks the silence with a sharp, commanding beat. Attention! Training overrides confusion. Every soldier snaps to form. He approaches her, not casually, formally, slowly, stops just short, raises a hand. Major Leora Vane, he declares, awarded the Medal of Valor, known to her brothers in arms as the Angel of Kandahar. Silence thickens, no longer awkward, now reverent. A hum rolls through the squad, recognition, regret, awe. Strake speaks first, voice lower than usual. She's the one. The op that never made the records, held the perimeter solo for 14 hours. 23 confirmed kills at over 3 clicks, while the Spec Ops team crawled to safety. Stravik doesn't move, doesn't breathe. Now, no one sees her as the quiet woman in the corner of the armory. Now they see the Spectre. Her personnel file is locked behind multiple clearance barriers. Even classified missions don't get that kind of seal. But Leora Vane doesn't react. She stands motionless, no explanation offered, because none is needed. She's the reason some of you are breathing, General Silas Wren says quietly, his gaze stopping on Kael Stravik. And yes, that includes you, Master Sergeant. Stravik stiffens. A memory, long buried, surfaces uninvited. A garbled voice cutting through dead comms. Spectre team, Ridge Overwatch in play. Now he hears it again, clear as day. He looks at her, jaw clenched. That was you! Leora meets his eyes. No longer silent. That was me. Later that night, the armory hums under dim lights. Leora works like always, and same table, same rhythm, but her movements now carry a different gravity, measured, visible, like she's done hiding, her own shadow. The door opens. Stravik steps in alone. His usual swagger is gone. He places his rifle on the bench. Says nothing. She doesn't greet him. Doesn't need to. She begins disassembling the weapon, each part handled with unshakable calm. Stravik breaks the silence after a while. I remembered the voice, not the face. Not then. He hesitates. Swallow's hard. You said just that one thing. Spectre team in place. We thought it was backup, a full detachment. Leora nods slightly, letting him sit with it. We had no idea it was one sniper. One rifle, 23 kills from a ridgeline no drone could even mark. He shakes his head, quiet. The furthest confirmed shot I knew of was 421 meters. 3467, she says gently, not boasting and correcting. He watches her now differently. No suspicion, just quiet awe. You could have taken command of any unit on this base. Hell, you could have had your own battalion. She begins putting the rifle back together, deliberate, smooth. Sometimes, she says, the only way to heal is to disappear for a while. Stravik wants to say something, maybe an apology, but the words won't come. Instead, he asks, why didn't you ever speak up? She slides the bolt back in place and hands the rifle to him, because it was never about recognition or reputation. It was never about any of you. Their hands brush again, no tension now, just shared understanding. Thank you, he says. And it carries more weight than it looks. The next morning, the mess hall is full of voices and clatter until Leora enters. The noise dies instantly. She's not in fatigues. Today she wears full dress uniform, her bars polished, her ribbons aligned, the Medal of Honor centered on her chest like a quiet echo of battles no one was supposed to survive. Without needing to be told, every soldier stands. General Wren approaches. Major Vane, he says formally, command has issued new orders. She tilts her head. They want you to build and lead a sniper development unit. Right here. Your methods, your standards. The silence in the room tightens. Every eye is on her. She surveys them. The same soldiers who once looked right through her. One condition, she says. I stay assigned to the armory. The weapons still matter. Ren smiles, the approval in his eyes quiet but real. Understood, Major. 6 months pass. Leora Vane stands at the far edge of the firing range, arms crossed, sun catching the edge of her insignia. Before her, a new breed of shooters. Recruits drawn from across branches, hand-picked by skill, not rank. Kael Stravik is among them, no longer posturing, now listening. One recruit, young, nervous, fumbles at the 1-800-meter line. Her grip's too tight, breathing off-beat. Leora steps beside her, speaks just above the wind. Don't fight the shake, she says. Listen to your breath. The stillness between beats, that's where the shot lives. The recruit nods once, exhales, then pulls the trigger. The shot lands clean. No ricochet, no second guessing, just a sharp bloom of dust at the farthest end of the range. The young shooter lowers her rifle, stunned by her own success. Leora Vane gives a small nod. No words, no applause. Then she turns, disappearing into the edge of the light like smoke from the barrel. As the group slowly disperses, shadows growing long on gravel, Leora remains behind, alone. She moves to the far corner of the range where her own weapon case sits. From it, she pulls an old rifle, patched, burnished, reworked a dozen times. Not flashy, just dependable. She selects a new target, so distant it might as well be the horizon. A soft crackle in her earpiece breaks the quiet. 5,000 meters locked in. Range is live, Major. No reply, just the slow process of settling in. Cheek to stock, breath aligned with heartbeat. Fingers poised. She fires. Time slows. Then across the open plain, a shimmer, a flick of light. Direct contact. She breathes out. There's no celebration, just the kind of smile that comes from knowing, not guessing, who you are. As she begins clearing the station, General Silas Wren appears from the shadows, hands resting in his coat. Another notch on the record board? He asks. Just staying disciplined, she replies. They watch you, you know. The recruits. They should watch the fundamentals, she says. This isn't instinct. It's pattern, control, gravity, and math. Wren looks out over the range. Spec Op still sends your name up the ladder, you know. Command spots are wide open. You'd have your pick. She closes her case with quiet finality. That's not the job I'm here for. They begin the walk back. No small talk, just boots grinding the sand. A long silence settles until Wren finally asks what everyone else has always wondered. Why'd you vanish after Tarmak? She pauses. 23 targets, every shot justified. But that's still 23 endings, and I'm the one who made each call. She doesn't look at him, just keeps her eyes on the horizon. Even when you wear the right flag, that kind of count changes something in you. Her voice is soft now. I didn't come back to chase medals. I came back to reset, to fix things that keep others alive. It was the only kind of peace I could hold. Wren studies her not as a superior, but as a man who understands. And now? Her gaze lingers on the wind-swept hills. Now I teach. Not just the shot, the pause before the shot. The weight of that choice. That's the part no one talks about enough. She slings the case over her back and walks toward the compound. The same walk she's made for years, but something's different now. She's no longer fading into the background. She's part of the story again. Leora Vane doesn't respond right away. She's seated at a workbench near the firing range, methodically cleaning a long-range rifle with steady hands. When she does speak, her voice is calm, almost reflective. You don't see with your eyes alone, she says. You read the wind the way a sailor reads the sea. You watch how light bends across metal. Even the air tells you things if you're quiet enough to hear it. A young trainee shakes his head. But at 4 clicks out, all I see is fog. Leora offers a slight nod. Exactly. That's when your vision gives out, and your training has to take over. Word spreads fast, not just across the base, but far beyond it. Requests start coming in from NATO liaisons. Foreign agencies start embedding observers in training rotations, pretending to be regular recruits. The halls fill with whispers and side glances. Even Kael Stravik, once her biggest critic and now her trusted second-in-command, starts drawing questions of his own. What's she like? They ask him. He watches as Leora walks past a trainee and, without a word, adjusts. Their posture with a fingertip to the elbow and a tiny nod toward the cheek rest. She's not fast, he says. But somehow everything moves around her. Half a year passes. One frigid morning, with snow clinging to the corners of the windows, Leora Vane steps into the administrative wing of the installation. Inside, General Wren is already waiting, flanked by two unfamiliar men in suits. Wren nods toward her. Major Vane, visitors from D.C. The taller of the two introduces himself. Director Harding, Strategic Operations Command. He motions to his colleague. Deputy Director Hal Velasquez. Leora greets them with standard military form. Firm handshake, minimal eye contact. What brings you all the way out here? Harding answers with zero hesitation. We need to talk about Spectre Team. Her face doesn't change. That file's under blackout classification. Velasquez steps in. Still is. But we're opening a door. In Wren's office, they pull up satellite intel on a secure monitor. Grainy images of rugged terrain fill the screen. Harsh ridges, deep valleys, snow squalls in motion. Harding explains. Remote sector in the Cheshire Mountains. In 21 days, we expect a high-level convergence of hostile operators. The location is nearly impossible to reach. Leora's eyes scan the images without blinking. She studies elevation lines, crosswinds, and heat bloom signatures. No reaction, no emotion. You're here for a shooter. We're here for Spectre 1, Velasquez replies. This distance is beyond any known team's capability, with reliability. Harding adds, just over 5,000 meters. Cutting through atmospheric interference, elevation drop, moving clouds. This needs precision, not luck. Leora closes the tablet slowly. And if I say no? Before either official can respond, General Wren speaks up. She's not under orders. She's earned the right to make this call. The room holds its breath. Then Harding adds one more detail. Quiet, calculated. One of the primary attendees is Dimitrek Varnov. Everything goes still. Leora repeats the name slowly. He planned Kandahar. Velasquez nods. And what happened there? It was only a warm-up. He's been expanding, recruiting. She doesn't hesitate. She hands the tablet back. I'll need support. Harding frowns. You mean a team? I mean my spotter, Kael Stravik, and 2 trainees from my elite rotation for outer perimeter control. My conditions, my equipment, my people, and I choose when we pull out. The 2 Washington officials exchange a subtle glance. Spectre 7 always worked alone, Harding says cautiously. Not anymore, Leora Vane replies, tone firm, unshaken. 72 hours later, she's in the weapons bay. Every item in its place arranged with clinical precision. Tools, optics, calibration instruments, all exactly where they need to be. She's tightening the fasteners on her gear bag when Kael Stravik steps in. His posture's stiff, unreadable. You don't owe me this, he says quietly. Not after what Dimitrek Varnov did to your team. Leora doesn't glance up. She's lining up reticle adjustments on a long-range scope. You're the best spotter I've ever worked with, she says. There are others. Fewer ghosts, fewer scars. Kael stays frozen in place. His voice lowers. I've chased Varnov across 3 continents. Every time I get close, command pulls the plug. Files sealed. Request denied. She finally looks at him. And that's why I hesitated. I know. But I'm not bringing you because of Varnov, she says. I'm bringing you because at 200 meters isn't a shot, it's a burden. And I need someone who knows what that burden feels like. That evening, beneath a slate-gray sky crusted with frost, Leora sits alone on the edge of the range. Her rifle is disassembled in front of her, each component weathered, storied. Every scratch a memory. General Wren approaches, 2 steaming mugs in hand. He places one beside her, no words at first. Another restless night? He asks softly. She doesn't answer right away, just making sure everything's where it's supposed to be. Wren watches as her hands reassemble the firing mechanism. No hesitation. No checklist. Muscle memory. HQ says this is a recon op, he says. But with Harding involved, I know better. So do I. He sighs. Leora, he says, her name landing heavy in the cold air. You don't have to walk back into that fire. She gazes upward. The stars hang distant and harsh. Some fires don't let you walk out. Wren's voice drops. It was all 8, wasn't it? That day in Kandahar. That's why you went dark. She doesn't reply at first. Then steady as ever. They were the finest I ever trained with. We were securing exfil. Varnov rigged the ridgeline, timed it perfectly. He was waiting for us. She slots the bolt into place, hands calm. I was covering high ground. Watched the blast through my scope. One moment we were a team. The next, Ren listens in silence. I held the line for nearly 15 hours. No backup, no radio, just patience and shadows. Took out 23 targets. But not him. Never got Varnov. He nods quietly. And now? She fits the optic onto the rail. Checks alignment. Clicks it into place with deliberate care. This isn't about payback. This is about finishing the job. Deployment morning. Sky locked in a silver overcast. The air cuts sharp and fast. The rotor wash of the inbound Black Hawk stirs snow into spirals. Leora Vane stands near the helipad, fully geared. Beside her, Kael Stravik, eyes sharp, posture tight. Just behind, Renzo Mayal, comms and systems expert, young but seasoned, with the quiet focus of someone who's already survived too much. As the helicopter touches down, General Wren crosses the runway at a quick pace. "Major Vane!" he shouts over the thrum of the rotors. She steps forward to meet him at the edge of the pad. He hands her a classified folder, sealed. New SAT passes. Taken this morning. Weather's breaking up near the ridge. She tucks it into her vest. "We'll adapt. There's more," he adds, voice tightening. "We've picked up intercepts. Varnov knows you're coming. No reaction. Just steel in her stare. He always does." She turns to board. Wren places a firm hand on her arm, stopping her briefly. The official narrative claimed Corbin Drasnik died in a routine exercise 15 years ago. That file was buried so deep it might as well have never existed. Leora Vane reads the intel without blinking, her face unmoved. "How'd you uncover this?" Kael Stravik doesn't hesitate. "I've had 3 years and more than enough reason to keep digging. Each agency had fragments. None saw the full picture. But I did. I saw what they didn't or didn't want to." The helicopter tilts sharply, diving between sheer walls of snow-covered granite. Inside the cockpit, Renzo Mayal keeps a close eye on the instruments. They're under 20 minutes from the drop zone. Kael leans closer. His voice drops an octave. "There's something else. What happened to your unit? That wasn't a mistake. Dimitrek Varnov didn't stumble onto them. He had precise details. Your identifiers, movement timing, comm structure. He went after Spectre unit deliberately." Leora doesn't flinch, but her gaze slowly lifts from the weapon she's inspecting.
"You think he had help from inside?" she says flatly.
"I think someone with access gave him your entire playbook," Kael answers. "Someone in our own system. Someone still active." The words hang heavy in the tight quarters of the helicopter, colder than the air outside. If Kael's right, they're walking into a mission already compromised from the inside. "LZ coming up," the pilot calls out through the headset. "Weather's getting worse, one shot at this." Below them, a narrow clearing carved out of frozen woodland offers their only insertion point, a dozen unforgiving miles from the surveillance perch. No roads, no vehicles. Every ounce of gear must be hauled on foot. Leora turns to each team member, Kael, Renzo, and meets their eyes. No words, no drama. Just silent readiness. They descend into the storm on fast ropes. The Black Hawk pulls away, swallowed by the white chaos. All that's left is the wind sighing through the pines. 12 miles, Leora says, shouldering her pack. Stay dark. No transmissions until we're in position. What follows is a brutal ascent. Jagged rock under snow. Slopes that drain muscle and breath. Drifts up to their hips. Wind sharp enough to peel skin. Leora Vane leads the way, her endurance slicing through the terrain like a blade. Renzo Mayal, methodical and exact, steers them with tech and terrain markers. Kael and Leora guard the rear, saving their strength, conserving focus. 6 grueling hours pass. Finally, they reach the ridge, a sharp escarpment, overlooking their target. A secluded estate buried in a glacier-fed valley, cut off from every direction but air. Recon photos pegged this site as the location. In 48 hours, Varnov and his inner circle will be here. Security's in place, Renzo mutters, watching intercepted comms scroll. Private team, military-trained, full electronic blackout. Leora raises her scope, adjusting to wind and glare. The compound lies just past 5,000 meters. With the conditions, altitude, cold distortion, shifting crosswinds, it's a shot no conventional marksman would attempt. We hold here, she says, indicating a natural overhang partially hidden by rock and timber. Absolute low profile. No heat, no sound. The work begins immediately. They construct a concealed hide, snow-reinforced, heat-suppressed, camo-netted. 3 zones take shape, one for eyes-on surveillance, another for comms, and a third, the sniper's nest, where Leora and Kael will settle in for the wait. As night falls, the temperature drops brutally. They rotate watch shifts with mechanical precision. Inside the shelter, discipline keeps the cold at bay. During her rest cycle, Leora Vane lies motionless. She's not restless, she's calculating. Wind vectors, altitude drop, moisture fluctuation, the Earth's own curve. At this range, even time has weight. Before sunrise, Kael crawls in silently beside her, scanning with the spotter scope. Activity at the compound, he whispers. Movement around the perimeter. 2 marks setting up long rifles on the east bluff. She lifts her scope. Watches with slow deliberation. She maps their coverage zones, rotation schedules, lines of fire. They're expecting trouble, she murmurs. Kael shifts slightly, eyes narrowed toward the frozen tree line. Yeah, he says. But they're not expecting it from here. No marksman in their right mind would attempt it from here. Kael Stravik muttered, fine-tuning the optic. We're well past the edge of feasible. Leora Vane didn't look up. Her grip steady, she adjusted her rifle's scope with surgeon-like precision. Feasibility is just a number, she replied. And numbers are solvable. Time crawled forward like frost. Each hour slow and exacting. From their snow-laced vantage, they logged every shift below. The rhythm of movement, overlapping patrols, blind spots disguised as routine. With enough observation, the pattern beneath the chaos revealed itself. Renzo Mile hunched near the comms array, drawing fragments of coded signals from shifting encryption. What emerged was a staggered schedule, coded names, subtle references, and logistical pulses. By nightfall, the picture grew clearer. And more troubling, security just doubled, Renzo said, unease in his voice. Not in the original scope. They're moving like someone tipped them, Leora answered, her tone flat but firm. No one argued. If Kael's earlier suspicion held true, that there was a leak from within, then their presence might already be known. We proceed, she said. But the exit plan shifts. Renzo mapped 3 fallback routes. All irregular, all cold paths. That evening, while the storm howled like a wounded thing, Leora broke down her weapon again. Every piece was examined, not out of necessity but principle. Precision wasn't optional. Kael Stravik watched from the shadows of the hide. Never seen anyone treat a rifle like that. She didn't glance up. It's not affection, it's responsibility. Her hands moved in rhythm. Clean, inspect. Balance into like a ritual learned long before. This tool will be asked to do what few others ever have. It deserves reliability. I owe it clarity. She looked up then, briefly. It doesn't choose the target. That decision is mine, and I live with that weight. Dawn brought clear skies, perfect for observation, disastrous for concealment. The sun punched holes through thinning cloud cover, threatening to betray them to thermal sweeps. Worse still, chopper activity had picked up. Loops widened. Altitudes lowered. Eyes on, Kael called out late morning. 2 helos inbound. Southeastern approach. Military profiles, 8 per ship. Trickle turned into torrent. Transport craft. Unmarked jets. High-value assets arriving from shadowed corners of the world. Arms merchants. Ex-intelligence operators. Power brokers with blood-stained ledgers. Still no Varnov, Renzo noted. He'll come once the board's set, Leora said, conviction firm. She was right. At dusk, as the mountains turned to ink, a sleek black helicopter knifed through the silence. It descended with flawless balance, touching down at the estate like it belonged. Kael adjusted his sight. Visual confirm. Varnov on approach. 3-man detail. All high threat. Leora dialed her optics one last time. She'd spent nearly 40 hours rehearsing the shot in her head. The range, 527 meters, meant the round would ride the wind for nearly 10 seconds, long enough for gravity, pressure, and the very turning of the earth to play their part. Wind running 12 to 18 knots, Kael whispered. Thermal gradient across the slope is 7 degrees. Mid-altitude shear is active. Leora processed the data silently. No notes, no calculator. Just the gut of a trained shooter and a mind, sharpened by years of cold math and colder reality. This was where science met instinct, where theory yielded to repetition. He's entering, Kael said, scope locked in. West door. Formation standard. You'll get between 8 and 12 seconds in the atrium. Big glass. Direct line. Leora eased into position. Her cheek found the stock, breath slowed, body anchored. Through the lens, she saw him. Corbin Drasnik. Or rather, Dmitrek Varnov, the phantom that haunted her every deployment. He walked like a man with nothing to fear, gesturing casually, completely unaware he was walking into the crosshairs of a weapon that had waited longer than memory. Her finger found the trigger, not with hesitation but intent. The margin for error? Minimal, but not zero. In the silence before action, a voice echoed in her mind, Archer's steady and familiar. You're not the angel of Kandahar now. Be Ghost 7. The ghost finishes what others won't. The angel mourns. She exhaled and made her decision. As the rotors spun faster, pushing against the thick gray sky, Leora Vane climbed aboard. Her gaze dropped to the compound below. 3 years of isolation and discipline, now fading beneath her boots. The armory where she had honed her edge. The range where reflex became legend. Below, at the edge of the landing pad, her former students stood motionless. A few months ago, they were untested names. Now they saluted like soldiers who'd seen ghosts. Inside the helicopter, Kael Stravik buckled in without a word, each strap locked down with mechanical precision. Across the narrow space, Renzo Mayal kept his eyes low, reviewing data, already elsewhere in his mind. Kael leaned closer. There's something I never told you about Dimitrek Varnov. Leora turned her head, reading him. Beneath the surface, his voice carried something different. Not intel truth. Say it. He didn't look away. After Kandahar, when you vanished, I kept digging. Varnov. He's not just some arms runner. He's Spetsnaz-born. Deep program. Hidden files, off-books training. Like us, but with more backing and no leash. The aircraft surged forward, cutting through dusk toward a sector in Chechnya that didn't show up on many maps, where secrets went to be erased. Kael lowered his voice. Even the name Dimitrek Varnov, it's a mask. He was born Korban Drasnik. Died, on paper, 15 years ago in a staged op. Nothing ever filed. No debrief. Just gone. Leora's eyes stayed locked on the horizon. She didn't flinch. How'd you find that? He answered without pause. I looked where the files stopped. Took 3 years and something to fight for. He pressed on. Intel circles, each one sees a sliver. I pieced them together. What they didn't share. What they didn't want to. The bird shifted right, dipping low through jagged air. Renzo checked their coordinates. ETA 20. Drops tight. Weather's turning. But Kael wasn't finished. That ambush, your team. It wasn't random. Varnov had intel. Exact ridge. Your designation. That wasn't luck. Leora's jaw tensed. You think someone fed him the data? I know someone inside gave it to him. A long silence followed. The kind that changes the room. The kind you don't walk back from. Then the pilot crackled over the comms. LZ's open, barely. Storm's collapsing the window. You're either in now or you're not going. Below them a clearing revealed itself. A soft break in a sea of pines and snow. 12 miles from the Overwatch site. Every inch had to be crossed without being seen. No speeches. No final words. Only nods. Then they jumped. Down into the storm. Into the dark unknown. Into the mission they couldn't abandon. The sound of rotors faded into silence. Only the breath of wind remained. 12 miles to the ridge, Leora said, hauling her pack over one shoulder. Radio silence until then. The march began. Snow deepened. The terrain punished. Each step heavier than the last. But Leora moved like she belonged to the cold, her body cutting paths, like a winter-born predator. Renzo navigated by memory and encrypted maps. Kael and Leora moved in rhythm, silent and synchronized. At 6 hours, they reached the summit. Across the valley, the target loomed. A remote lodge, unreachable by normal means, nestled between death and altitude. Renzo's gear hissed to life. Summit happens in 48 hours. Security's already in place. Close perimeter. Heavy Russian contractors. Leora lifted her scope, brushing frost from the lens. The structure sat just over 5 kilometers away. Wind gusts slashed visibility. For most shooters, the shot would be a fantasy. This notch, she said, marking a depression in the ridge. Stable. Cold enough to mask thermal. Elevation gives angle. We set here. They dug quickly, cutting into the snowpack, layering with heat suppression and carbon mesh. A hole inside winter. They took rolls. Renzo on signals. Kael on overwatch. Leora behind the rifle. Night came and didn't bring sleep. While others rotated rest, Leora stared upward, replaying the firing solution like prayer, tracking the air itself, reading the sky like an old book. The Coriolis effect wasn't theory at this range. It was math with consequence. Before dawn, Kael returned from his scan, perimeters shifting, sniper teams on the east ridge. Leora scanned, confirming spacing. Calculating return paths, estimating exposure time. They're ready for a hit, Kael muttered. Just not from this side. No one uses this side, she replied. Because it's stupid. She adjusted again. And sometimes stupid is the smart move. Daylight crept in. They logged everything. Shifts, rotations, guard swaps. Renzo intercepted partial bursts. References, labels, hints of arrival orders. Something felt off. Extra guards, Renzo said. This wasn't in the brief. They know, Leora murmured. Kael didn't ask how. She made the call. Evac plan changes. Renzo, 3 routes, unpredictable, nothing standard. Storms hammered the ridge that night, but Leora broke down her rifle again. Every pin. Every spring. Each piece got the treatment of ritual. Kael watched from the corner. You treat it like a person. It's not affection, she replied. It's responsibility. She reassembled the last part. This rifle has one job. It deserves my best. She paused. The shot, it's mine. Not the guns, mine. When the morning broke, visibility stretched far, but so did the risk. They'd be exposed now unless buried in cold. Kael's voice was a low hum. 2 incoming southeast military profile. 8 aboard. Then more came, dozens. Crime lords. Turned agents. Dealers of chaos. Still no Drasnik, Renzo said. He comes when the stakes are set, Leora answered. She wasn't wrong. At sunset, a quiet chopper descended from the north. Not a sound wasted. Pure precision. Kael dialed in. It's him. Dmitry Varnov. 3-body detail. VIP security. Leora made her final prep. She had one chance. A 9.7-second flight. One shot across 5 kilometers of wind, time, and spin. Range 5,127 meters, Kael said. Wind shears back. 12 to 18. Temp delta is 7 degrees. She didn't blink. This was what she was built for. He's heading in, Kael added. Main hall. 8-second visual through glass. Diamond pattern guard formation. She lowered to the platform. Renzo, Rivera, prepare to move on shot. Kael's voice came once more. 10 seconds to entry. Leora read the terrain without looking. Felt the wind on her skin more than her scope. 5. Her breath slowed. Heart quieted. Window 1. And through her lens, there he was. Korban Drasnik. Dmitry Varnov. Her ghost. Her reason. He walked like a man untouchable. Unaware. Her finger curled against the trigger. The impossible shot waited. And in that final silence, she remembered the words. Be Ghost 7, not the angel of Kandahar. Ghosts complete. Angels carry the grief. She exhaled and made her choice.